Hi, my name is Wylie, and I am a vicar at First Lutheran Church in Waltham, Massachusetts. And I'm currently here in the middle of the city in Boston Commons. I had the awesome experience to intern at the Evangelical Lutheran Churches in America's advocacy office in Washington, D.C. a couple summers back. And what was part of my job was to walk to the Supreme Court, which was right down the street from the office, every Monday and Thursday to hear our highest court in the nation's decision about policies that have been upheld or rejected by the court. And I remember one day, which was a really sad day, I walked to the Supreme Court and heard that the court had upheld the Muslim ban. And for me as a Lutheran, I knew I had to be there. And someone walked up to me and asked, "You're a Lutheran, and why are you here?" And for me, that question bothered me because I'm a Lutheran, and why wouldn't I be here? Lutherans have a complicated history as they have existed in the public square. Martin Luther's theology started off as a reform of the church, that people's souls were still trapped by theologies of the church that were not life-giving. And at the same time, sometimes we would like to only read that Reformation history, when in fact Martin Luther saw that the pastoral concern of his people had to also be institutionalized. He saw that the public policies like the common chest weren't just for the church, but they also must be taken to the local communities of Wittenberg and all across Germany. And a little piece of history that us Lutherans don't like to say is that Martin Luther's theology and public policies became the groundwork for the social welfare states of Europe and Scandinavia. But then again, Luther, a couple years later, fails to come to the aid of the peasants as a revolt against the powers and principalities of its day. The death and resurrection and ascension of Christ frees me from having to work out my own salvation. Because of Christ, I am enough. I am saved. But sometimes we forget the second half of that. We are freed from, but we are also freed to. We are freed to come to the aid and defense of our neighbors. We are freed to engage policymakers and powers and principalities when they abuse and marginalize our neighbors. At the same time, we abide in love as a paradox. At the same time, we criticize public policies that deny freedom of our neighbors. We also work with our elected officials in safeguarding their rights and ours. We abide in love in public when we go and we vote. We abide in love in public when we show up at school board meetings, at city council meetings, at our state legislators, at our nation's capital, when we engage policymakers as we ensure the freedom of our neighbors. We stand in solidarity with religious minorities. We use our power and privilege as Christians and make sure that their human dignity is upheld. We ask Indigenous leaders, how can we stand in solidarity with them? And we listen. Our baptismal covenant empowers us to abide in love in public. These are the promises we make in baptism. We promise to live among God's faithful people. We promise to hear the word of God and partake in the Lord's Supper. This is our faith, and this is most certainly true. Let us go now into the world, abiding in love, witnessing to the way of love that can truly transform this world into the dream of God's intent.